Hello, everyone, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to explore a quiet but deeply emotional story about a small family, a cold Christmas season, and three people learning how to heal, love, and stay together after so many broken moments. It's a journey filled with simple meals, unspoken promises, and a little girl discovering the true meaning of the word family. If you enjoy heartfelt stories that warm your soul, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming stories. Let's begin. Some stories don't start with big moments or dramatic turns. They begin quietly, in a small house on a cold night, with a few people trying to stay together after life has pulled them apart too many times. That Christmas, as the street lights slowly flickered on one by one, Ye's family prepared for a simple meal. There was no towering Christmas tree, no shiny wrapped gifts waiting in the corner. There was only the soft glow of the kitchen light and three hearts cautiously finding their way back to something called family. There was Ye, a quiet man who carried his promises deep inside, rarely speaking them out loud. There was Huyen, a woman long used to being strong on her own, yet still quietly longing for a place to rest. And there was Maya, a little girl who had grown up without her father's arms, learning early how to believe in love without ever fully touching it. This wasn't a story about miracles. It was a story about choosing to stay. There were no heroes here, just ordinary people, patient enough to heal each other a little more every day. If you've ever felt a deep longing for a place to belong, for a meal filled with laughter instead of silence, then stay with me. Follow Huyen's family on this quiet Christmas night, because sometimes the smallest moments carry the greatest warmth. Christmas was close. Outside, the cold wind slipped through the narrow streets, carrying the faint scent of pine and distant holiday music drifting from somewhere nearby. Inside the small house, a warm yellow light glowed gently, soft, steady, and enough to push back the loneliness of the past few years. In the kitchen, Ye stood at the counter, focused on preparing dinner. He wasn't someone known for fancy cooking, but tonight, every movement was careful, almost reverent. He peeled each carrot slowly, washed every leaf of greens, as if the effort itself mattered more than the result. It was his quiet way of showing care. Huyen stood nearby, helping when needed, watching him from time to time. Since Maya had come into their lives, Ye had changed. He spoke less, laughed less, but there was a new weight in his presence, responsibility, steady and unshakable. Maya sat at the small table, her legs swinging back and forth as she hugged an old teddy bear to her chest. She watched Ye closely, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Uncle Ye," she asked softly, "what is Christmas?" Ye paused. He turned, crouched down in front of her, and his voice softened in a way it rarely did. "Christmas is a day when people stay together, sweetheart. A day when we try to love each other a little more." Maya tilted her head, thinking carefully. "So, can I go outside to play this Christmas?" The question tightened Ye's chest. For most children, it would have meant nothing special. For Maya, it was a small dream she'd stopped asking for a long time ago. He smiled gently and brushed a bit of dust from her cheek. "Of course," he said, "I promise. This Christmas, I'll take you out. We'll see a big Christmas tree with lots of twinkling lights. Would you like that?" Maya's eyes widened. She nodded quickly. "Yes, really." His voice was calm but firm, like a vow. Behind him, Huyen pretended to taste the soup, but her eyes filled with tears. She knew that promise wasn't just about Christmas lights. It was Ye's way of filling the empty space left by Tuk, the father who had walked away and left too many quiet wounds behind. Dinner was soon ready. The table held simple dishes: steaming soup, braised beef with a hint of pepper, a few slices of toasted bread. Nothing extravagant. Yet Maya stared at the food as if it were something precious. She sat up straight and whispered shyly, "Can I eat with Daddy? I mean, with Uncle Ye, Mommy?" The room went still. Huyen held her breath. Ye froze for just a moment. Then he sat down beside Maya without correcting her. His voice trembled slightly. "Yes, we'll eat together." During the meal, Maya smiled more than usual. She talked non-stop about school, her teacher, and her friends. Yi listened carefully, nodding, adding food to her bowl the way it came naturally to him now. At one point, Maya leaned her head against his hand without thinking. Ye didn't move. He barely breathed, afraid that even the smallest motion might break the moment. For a second, memories of the past flickered through his mind. Maya's silent tears, the pain Tuk had left behind. Ye told himself then and there, no matter what, the past would not repeat itself. After dinner, Ye cleared the table while Huyen wiped Maya's hands. The little girl looked up at them, her voice gentle but full of hope. "This Christmas, we'll all be together, Mommy." Huyen hugged her tightly. Yes, all together. Ye stood behind them, watching quietly. From this moment on, he promised himself, it would stay this way. Outside, Christmas bells rang softly in the night. The house still had no big tree or fancy gifts, but inside, 3 people sat close together, learning how to love and heal one day at a time. For Maya, it was the first Christmas where the word family truly made sense. For Yi, it was the beginning of a lifelong promise. The next morning arrived wrapped in mist. The small yard in front of the house was livelier than usual as Vivi, their little dog, ran around barking happily, her paws tapping against the ground. The sound stirred the quiet mountain morning. Inside, Ye sat awake on the bed, sunlight slipping through the cracked window. Beside him, Maya slept curled up under the blanket, her cheeks rosy. Huyen lay nearby, one arm instinctively stretched toward the child. He watched them for a long moment, afraid to move, afraid to disturb the peace. Finally, Huyen stirred. "Yeah," she said softly. "It's morning." He opened his eyes fully and smiled when he saw Maya still asleep. "Already?" "Yes," Huyen said. "You promised to take her to the market today." Ye remembered instantly. He sat up and gently tapped Maya's shoulder. "Maya, wake up. We're going to the market." Her eyes fluttered open. The moment she heard the word market, she sat straight up. "Really? I can come too." "Yes," Ye laughed. "We're going together." Vivi barked at the door as if cheering them on, and Maya burst into laughter, filling the small house with sound. Soon, all 3 were ready. Maya wore an old but clean coat, her hair neatly braided by Huyen. Ye pulled on his worn jacket and held Maya's hand firmly as they walked down the path toward the market. The market was busy, voices overlapping, laughter ringing out, the smell of fresh vegetables, and warm bread filling the air. Maya looked around in amazement. "Uncle," she asked, "why are there so many people?" "Because everyone wants to buy good things for their families," Ye replied. She nodded thoughtfully, then tugged his hand and pointed at a basket of vegetables. "Let's buy these for Mommy." Ye paused, his heart softening. "All right." he said gently. You choose. Maya carefully selected each bunch, her face serious, as if this task mattered more than anything else in the world. He watched her, feeling something new settle in his chest. The quiet, unfamiliar weight of being a real father. They bought meat, eggs, and a small cake Maya insisted on carrying herself. This is for Mommy's dessert, she said proudly. On the way home, Maya chatted endlessly about helping cook lunch, about washing vegetables, about how happy she was. Yi listened, smiling, knowing that this simple walk home, was already a gift beyond anything he could wrap. When they arrived home, the stove was already lit. Huyen looked up from the kitchen as she heard the door open, surprised to see their hands full. You bought so much, she said, smiling as Maya ran toward her. We're going to cook for you, Mommy, Maya declared proudly. You have to eat everything. Huyen laughed, but her eyes shimmered. She knelt down and hugged the little girl tightly, breathing in the faint scent of cold air and fresh vegetables. All right, she said softly. I'll eat it all. In the kitchen, Ye rolled up his sleeves, while Maya stood on a small stool beside him. Together, they washed vegetables and prepared ingredients. Maya worked slowly, water splashing everywhere, but Ye never rushed her. He showed her each step with patience, correcting her gently, his voice calm and steady. There were no raised voices, no frustration, only quiet guidance. That afternoon, Huyen ate more than usual, not because the food was special, but because it carried something deeper, the care, effort, and love of the two people she cherished most. She watched Ye and Maya across the table, her heart filling in a way she hadn't felt in years. As long as mornings like this existed, she thought, any exhaustion would be worth it. Midday passed slowly. The scent of freshly cooked rice mixed with the warmth of the stove, wrapping the small house in a sense of calm. Sunlight streamed through the window, landing softly on the old wooden table, leaving golden streaks across its worn surface. The meal was simple: a bowl of steaming soup, freshly picked vegetables, tender stewed meat fragrant with pepper and onions. Nothing extravagant, but it felt complete. 3 people sat together, sharing a piece that felt rare and fragile, yet real. Maya sat in the middle, her back straight like an adult's. Her small hands rested neatly near her bowl, her eyes bright but cautious, as if she feared this warmth might disappear if she blinked. Yi sat across from her, watching quietly. He placed a piece of meat in her bowl, blew on it gently, and slid it closer to her. Eat while it's warm, he said softly. Maya nodded eagerly. Okay. Huyen watched them, a small smile forming on her lips. For the first time in a long while, her heart didn't ache during a meal. There was no fear about tomorrow, no tension hanging in the air, just the sound of eating, talking, and living together. Maya chatted about school, about her teacher's cat, about going to the market with Uncle Ye. Chopsticks clinked lightly against bowls. Vivi snorted under the table, wagging her tail whenever food dropped near her paws. It was a simple melody, one that only felt precious after you'd lived too long without it. Halfway through the meal, Ye suddenly set his chopsticks down. He looked at Maya, his expression a mix of excitement and nervousness, like he was about to reveal a secret. Tonight, he said carefully, I'll take you to the church. Maya froze. The church? She repeated, eyes wide. Yes, Ye continued, smiling. There's a really big Christmas tree there. Tall, bright, covered in lights, and they say Santa Claus will come in his sleigh. For a second, Maya didn't move. Then she jumped up so quickly her chair nearly tipped over. "Really?" she gasped. "Santa Claus? With real reindeer?" Her laughter burst out, clear and unrestrained, echoing through the house. She clutched her chest as if afraid her heart might leap out. Huyen quickly reached over. "Careful, sweetheart," she said gently, though she couldn't stop smiling. It had been so long since she'd seen Maya this happy, truly happy, without hesitation or fear. Her voice softened. "Remember to wear a warm coat tonight. It'll be cold." Maya nodded vigorously. "I will, and a scarf too." Then she looked at Huyen, her voice quieter now. "Mommy, will you come with us?" Before Huyen could answer, Ye spoke naturally, as if there were no other possibility. "Mommy will come with us. She'll carry you if you get tired." The room went still for just a heartbeat. Huyen looked up at Ye. There was no hesitation in her eyes, only understanding. She nodded slightly. Maya ran to her and wrapped her arms around her neck. "Really, Mommy?" she asked. "Yes," Huyen said, her voice trembling. "Mommy will carry you." Ye watched them, his chest tightening before warmth spread through him. He knew this night would become one of Maya's first true memories, of being held, of belonging, of feeling safe. As afternoon faded into evening, the cold crept back into the air. Christmas lights glowed along the path to the church, their soft yellow light stretching like a welcoming road. Bells rang out clearly, their sound crisp and sacred. Huyen walked beside Ye, one hand holding his, the other wrapped around Maya, who rested comfortably in her arms. The little girl pressed her cheek against her mother's shoulder, eyes wide with wonder. As they stepped through the church gates, Maya whispered, "Mommy, it's beautiful." In the courtyard stood a towering Christmas tree, tall and elegant, lights shimmering like stars. Ornaments reflected the glow, sparkling with every movement. Beneath the tree were figures of Santa, reindeer, and rows of bright gift boxes, so perfect they felt unreal. Maya hugged Huyen tighter. "I thought this only existed on TV," she murmured. Huyen stood still, her heart stirred by something deep and sacred. For years, Christmas had been just another quiet day, something to pass through quickly. But now, standing beneath the lights, she realized something she'd forgotten. She deserved joy too. Ye stood slightly behind them, watching quietly. "If you get tired," he said gently, "I'll walk slower." Maya pointed excitedly. "Uncle Ye, look, the reindeer. They look like they can fly." Ye smiled. "Maybe they will tonight." They joined the crowd as carols drifted through the air. Maya didn't understand the words, but she swayed along to the melody, patting her mother's shoulder in rhythm. Huyen kissed the top of her head. "Are you happy?" she asked. Maya nodded hard. "Mommy, I've never been this happy." Those words pierced Huyen's heart. She hugged her daughter tighter, silently promising never to let this warmth fade. Suddenly, cheers rose from the crowd. A figure dressed as Santa appeared in a sleigh pulled by reindeer. Maya gasped, then squealed with joy. "Santa Claus!" she cried. "He's real!" She reached out, eyes shining. Tears filled Huyen's eyes as she smiled, overwhelmed by how full her heart felt. Yi watched them both, gratitude washing over him. Not all gifts came wrapped. Some came from simply being there. The church bells rang again, echoing beneath the lights. Huyen held Maya close, standing beside Ye. The three of them stood together in silence, needing no words. In that moment, they were no longer broken people finding their way. They were a family, small, imperfect, but learning to be happy. one quiet Christmas at a time. On a quiet Christmas,
một bà mẹ
a
đơn
small
thân,
family
con
begins to
đau
heal
khổ
through
trở về
simple
đống rác
moments
cũ
and
cùng con
shared
mình
warmth.
và bất ngờ
Yeah,
phát hiện nơi đây đã
a
được
quiet
Alex,
man
một
carrying
người đàn ông vô
unspoken
cùng có tài
promises.
năng, âm thầm
Huyen,
tu sửa,
a strong
trong
mother
khi
longing for
Cửu
peace,
La chăm chỉ làm
and
việc
Maya,
để xứng đáng
a
với tấm
little
lòng của
girl
anh,
growing up
thì
without
chị
her
gái của
father's
Alex
love,
lại phản đối, cho
slowly
rằng cô
learn
không
what it
xứng đáng với
means
em
to
trai
stay
mình.
together.
Cùng lúc đó,
From
Alex
a
luôn cho
modest
rằng
Christmas meal
cho sự an
to
toàn
a
và sức khỏe
lively
của
trip
Cửu
to the
La,
market,
thậm chí
every
còn nhắc nhở
action
cô
becomes
về
an
việc
act
phải
of
đi bộ con
care
đường dài
and
con nhỏ.
belonging.
Những lần gặp
For
gỡ,
Maya,
họ đều ấm
Christmas
áp,
lights,
nhưng
a
vẫn bị
church
che phủ
visit,
bởi những tình
and
cảm
the sight
cho
of
ra
Santa
và sự
are
phản đối
not
từ
just
gia đình.
celebrations,
Ở
but
nhà,
proof that
Alex phải đối
love
mặt
is
với
real
những
and
bức của chị
lasting.
gái yêu cầu giữ
As the
anh giữ
three
khoảng cách,
stand side
nhưng
by
sâu trong lòng,
side under the
anh biết
glowing
mình đang quan
lights,
tâm đến Tử
they
La nhiều hơn
realize
những
that
gì chị
family
nhận.
is not defined by
Quyết tâm
blood,
thay đổi
but
cách
by
nhìn của gia
choice.
đình, Alex âm thầm lên
Yet
kế
this
hoạch chứng minh giá
Christmas
trị của Tử
is
La,
only the
đồng thời
beginning,
lặng lẽ theo dõi và bảo vệ cô từ
because what
xa.
happens after the lights fade may change their lives forever.